Agenda item 13I, recommendation, consideration, and action for the adoption of elementary attendance zones for 2018 to 2019 school year.
We have been working on this for quite a while. In some form or fashion, it seems like forever. But what we have for you tonight is a recommendation. And Mr. Benson will talk about this, but I want to give him and Mr. Thompson a tremendous amount of credit for the work that they put in on providing the board two options. And I will give, after the presentation, I will give a recommendation to the board. So, Mr. Benson.
All right, so what we have for you is the two options. This, basically, between the two, is where Central's boundaries are. That's what you get a choice of. So in option one, if we pull up Central's boundaries, on the north is Highway 33, east is I-35, Prairie Grove on the south, and the Cottonwood Creek to the west. That's the option one. As you can see, we change Central's boundaries a little bit for option two. Still Highway 33 to the north, I-35 on the east, and then Division on the west. Like Dr. Simpson said, we made many revisions to this. We even met as a group, came up with these two that we thought we could live with and present to the board.
One of the things that we looked at in this is establishing a 1.5 mile radius around each school site for transportation purposes, and anything inside the 1.5 miles. And that's pretty standard for neighborhood schools to provide transportation only outside a 1.5 miles of the school that they attend. In doing so, and looking at traffic patterns and how we could make our buses very efficient and have kids on a bus for less amount of time, which is one of the original intents of this whole transition. We looked at the number of kids in the walk zone, then we looked at the proposed capacities of the different schools and the different sites, because as you know, they're not all the same. And some of our school buildings can hold more students than others. And then we plotted out where the kids are. Now, one of the things that is a limitation is our current pre-K students. That we only have between 50 and 60% of what we anticipate to be our enrollment for kindergarten next year. So if you roll those kids up to next year, some of those are not with us now, but will be next year. And we historically have run around 250 or so in those classes. And so we're not there with our numbers right now, and there's no way to plot out where those kids are. That's one of the limitations. The other is where the next year's pre-K students would live. And there's no way to project that. And there is one more variable here that is impossible to control for. Since we have made the announcement, since we have begun construction, and since we have looked at the boundary lines, I have received several communications from parents with regard to their kids don't currently attend Guthrie Public Schools, but because of the location of Charter Oak Elementary, while they may be homeschooled, they may be attending private school somewhere else, but because of that location, they are going to enroll, they're making plans to enroll their student in Guthrie Public Schools because they're sure that they would be in the Charter Oak district, and it's actually closer in proximity than where they're going to school currently, or they're being homeschooled. So that is why there are some variables, and there's no way to control for those because we don't know where those kids are right now, but we know that they will be coming to us. That being said, and Dee mentioned that we all sat around a table and hashed this out at a long length of discussion. The One of the real challenging parts to our transportation scenario that we have in Guthrie is getting buses through the Noble Division intersection. And the viaduct, having a new bridge, is not going to speed that up. It might make it smoother eventually, but it's really not going to smooth that. It's really not going to make that any faster. And so we project that option 1, it also balances the class sizes at Cotterell, and we would overload some class sizes at Cotterell if we did option 2. And by doing option 1, it would also reduce the, we believe it will reduce the number of buses that have to go through that intersection to get to the west side of town, based on our population and the concentration of where our students are right now. And so that I bring to you a recommendation for option 1, but we'll be glad to have Dee or I or Cody to answer any questions.
Well, I think I like option 1 because of the Cottonwood Creek being the boundary line and not having to make that trip across the bridge, because I'm not sure what they're doing with the 5th Street Bridge, because you used to make that turn before you go over the viaduct. But I don't even think that's going to be an option anymore. So, Mr. President, I make a recommendation that we approve option 1 as our boundary map for the elementary attendance zones for 2018-2019 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I like it because we saved $15,000 and we didn't have.
Yeah, we can definitely thank Dee and Cody.
Yes.
And Dr. Simpson for all their hard work in making this happen.
They put their heads together. We appreciate it. Thank you.
It'll be fluid, it'll change. You know, I mean, that's the way it's going to, we're going to have to work through it. It's a good place to start.
It is.
I think it's a good plan.
job.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Davis.
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
Medley.
Yes.
Salee.
Yes.
Pearson.
Yes.
Pennington.
Yes.
Bennett Johnson.
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.